It started the day we moved into our new house, an old Victorian with more rooms than we knew what to do with. My wife Emily was obsessed with restoring it to its former glory, and I was happy to help. We spent the first few days unpacking, then took inventory of the repairs. The house was full of quirks, odd creaks, cold spots, and a constant feeling of being watched. We brushed it off as the charm of an old house. But it wasn't until the third night that I noticed something really odd. While exploring the attic, I found a door I hadn't seen before. It was small, more like a closet door, set into a dark corner behind some old boxes. Something about it unsettled me. The paint was newer than the rest of the room, and it had a padlock, not a modern lock, but something rusted and ancient. "Hey, Emily," I said, my voice echoing off the rafters. She climbed the stairs, curious. When she saw the door, she frowned as if it offended her. "I don't remember seeing that," she said, shaking her head. The strange thing was, I hadn't seen it before either. We searched for the key but had no luck. Curiosity got the better of me, and the next day, I went to the hardware store and bought some bolt cutters. The padlock gave easily under the pressure, and I swung the door open, expecting to find nothing but dusty storage. Instead, there was a room. A narrow staircase led down into a space that shouldn't have existed. The layout of the house made no sense. There couldn't be a room in that spot, not according to the blueprints we'd seen. The air coming from the opening was cold and had an earthy smell, like damp soil. Emily gave me a worried glance, but I stepped down anyway, carefully feeling my way in the darkness. At the bottom, my phone's flashlight revealed a small room, bare except for a chair in the center. The walls were covered in what looked like old, faded wallpaper, but upon closer inspection, I realized they were covered in writing. Hundreds, no thousands of names, each scrawled in the same shaky handwriting. And there, near the chair, was something that made my stomach twist. A set of scratch marks on the floor, leading towards the staircase, like someone had been dragged. "I think we should leave," Emily said, her voice trembling. I nodded, suddenly overwhelmed by the sense of being watched again, but stronger this time. I felt it from behind me, from that chair. We backed out of the room, pulling the door shut behind us. I wished we'd left it locked. That night, the scratching started. Faint at first, but unmistakable, coming from above our heads, from the attic. Emily and I lay in bed, too terrified to move, listening to the sound of nails scraping against wood. Then came the whispers, low, unintelligible, like someone murmuring just behind the door. The next morning we went up there, ready to nail the door shut. But the door was gone. Not just locked, completely gone. The wall where it had been was now solid, as if it had never been there. Emily swore we were losing our minds, that maybe the stress of the move had gotten to us. But I still hear it at night. The scratching, the whispers. Sometimes I think I catch a glimpse of a shadow in the corner of my eye, always near where the door used to be. I don't tell Emily anymore. She seems happier pretending it's all behind us. But I know it's not. There's a room that doesn't exist, and something is trying to get out. A week later, things escalated. Emily started waking up in the middle of the night, gasping for air. She said she felt like something was sitting on her chest, pressing down, keeping her from breathing. Her eyes were wide with fear, darting around the room as if she could see something I couldn't. I tried to comfort her, telling her it was just sleep paralysis, but deep down, I knew better. The whispers had grown louder, more distinct, and now they seemed to come from different parts of the house. One night, I woke up to find Emily standing at the foot of our bed, staring at the ceiling. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused, and her lips were moving, whispering something I couldn't understand. I called her name, my voice barely a croak in the dark. She didn't respond. I reached out, touched her arm, and she jolted, blinking as if she had just woken from a deep sleep. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice trembling. She looked at me, confused. I don't know," she whispered. She climbed back into bed, but neither of us slept the rest of the night. The next morning, she didn't remember any of it. The following day, I decided to check out the attic again. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening to us was connected to that room. I moved the boxes, searching for any sign of the door. The wall was solid, just as it had been before, but as I pressed my ear against it, I could hear something, a faint thudding, like someone knocking from the other side. I spent hours in the attic, tapping along the walls, searching for any hollow spots. Finally, I found one. It was in the same corner where the door had been. My heart pounded as I grabbed a hammer and started chipping away at the plaster. Emily begged me to stop, but I couldn't. I had to know what was behind that wall. After what felt like an eternity, I broke through. There was a gap, just wide enough to peer into. I shined my flashlight through the hole, and my breath caught in my throat. The room was there, just as it had been before. The chair, the names on the walls, the scratch marks on the floor. But there was something else now. A figure, sitting in the chair. It was a woman, her head bent forward, her hair hanging over her face. Her skin was pale, almost gray, and her hands rested limply in her lap. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized she was whispering, her voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. I couldn't understand the words, but the tone was pleading, desperate. Suddenly, her head snapped up and I saw her eyes, black, hollow, and staring straight at me. I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. It rolled across the floor, the beam flickering before going out entirely. Emily screamed, and I felt a cold wind rush past me, as if something had been released. We ran out of the attic, slamming the door behind us. I could hear the whispers growing louder, echoing through the house. The air felt thick, oppressive, and I knew we couldn't stay there any longer. We packed our bags that night, leaving behind everything we couldn't carry. We moved into a small apartment across town, trying to put the house and whatever was in it behind us. But it wasn't over. The first night in our new place, I woke to the sound of scratching. It was faint, coming from the corner of the bedroom. Emily was still asleep, her face peaceful for the first time in weeks. I held my breath, listening. The scratching grew louder, followed by the whispers. I turned on the light, my heart pounding. There in the corner was a small door. The paint was new, the wood smooth, and an old rusted padlock hung from the latch. My blood ran cold as I realized, no matter where we went, it would follow. The room that shouldn't exist. The thing that was trying to get out. And this time it had found us.